We live in a world that is, well, it's just noisy, right? It never stops talking. But what if the most powerful messages, the most important ones, are actually found in the quiet? Today, we're going to learn how to listen to silence and understand the stories it's trying to tell us.
So that leads us to the big question, the one we're really digging into. What can silence actually tell us? Because it's not just an absence of noise, It's a language all its own.
And what's the best way to understand a new language? Usually, it's with a story. So let's start there. This one is all about a brother, his sister, and a piano that has suddenly fallen quiet.
Think about it. Every home has its own soundtrack, right? A rhythm. In Ezra's home, that rhythm was his sister's piano. It was this constant source of joy. But lately, that rhythm had just stopped.
Okay, so this is our first clue. There's a change in the routine. That familiar melody that always fills the house, it's just gone. Ezra notices this absence, this little missing piece of his world. And honestly, that's the most important first step, simply noticing.
So what does he do? He asks a really gentle question. It's not an accusation, it's not a demand, it's just a simple, caring question. He's just trying to understand the silence.
And her response, oh, this is so key. Her mouth says one thing, but her eyes are saying something completely different. This is the disconnect we're looking for, that gap between the words people say and the truth. That forced smile and those watery eyes, they're communicating way more than her voice is.
All right, now this is the pivotal moment. Ezra doesn't push her to talk. He doesn't try to fix her problem. Instead, he does this small, quiet, really empathetic thing. He connects with the source of the silence itself, the piano.
This is just such a beautiful line. When Naomi asks what he's doing, his explanation isn't even about her, but of course it says everything to her. He's showing her, not telling her, that the things she loves and by extension, she herself, still matters even in the silence.
And what happens? It works. His quiet little invitation, his gentle act of solidarity, it created the space for her to come back to her music, on her own terms. The melody returned, not because of force, but because of empathy.
So, it's a simple story, but the fact that we can understand it so clearly reveals a really powerful skill we all have. So let's break down exactly how we do that, how we read between the lines to find meaning in the quiet.
We can really separate what we see from what we understand. Over here on the left, you've got the clues, the raw data, a silent piano, watery eyes. And on the right, that's the inference. That's the meaning we pull from those clues. The real magic happens right in that gap, where our empathy turns a simple observation into real understanding.
This shows us that we can draw pretty clear conclusions from silent clues. We infer that Naomi is sad. We understand that Ezra's action was an invitation, not some kind of order. And finally, the outcome, the music coming back, confirms that his quiet, empathetic approach actually worked. This is the heart of understanding silent communication.
And this whole thing illustrates a much bigger idea. I mean, it's not just about reading the clues, it's about how we choose to respond to them. So let's explore the power of quiet action.
Just listen to these lines. She didn't cry, she didn't speak. Those short, simple statements create this feeling of tension, don't they? There is so much happening in this lack of action.
And then comes the turn, but I knew. That one line confirms that silence isn't emptiness, it's a space filled with meaning. That kind of quiet says something. It's a powerful message, but only if we're willing to listen for it.
So, how do you act on something you can't see or hear directly? Well, it requires a kind of faith. And I'm not just talking in a strictly religious sense here, but faith in our own observations. Trusting the evidence of things you can't see, like an unspoken need or a hidden feeling.
And this is exactly what Ezra did. He couldn't see his sister's sadness like it was a physical object, but he saw all the evidence for it. His decision to play that single note, that was an act of faith in his own perception. He was responding to an unseen, unspoken need. And this is the core truth we can really take away from all this. The responsibility is on us. The messages are always there, in the quiet moments, in the things left unsaid. The real question is whether we're choosing to pay enough attention to hear them.
So why does all this matter so much? Why is learning to read silent clues so important? Let's zoom out and look at the educational philosophy that's really behind a lesson like this. It's about building way more than just a sharp mind.
It all comes down to a deeper idea, that true education has to be tied to morality.
First, you have to recognize that intelligence without character can actually cause a lot of hurt. From there, you see that the real purpose of learning is to prevent that harm through wise, kind action. And ultimately, this approach suggests that aligning our minds with that purpose, what you might call a spiritual mindset, is the path to finding real peace.
In the end, the story of the missing melody isn't just a reading exercise, it's an exercise in empathy. It's about connecting our intelligence to our character and understanding that the sharpest minds are very often the most observant and kind ones too.
And that brings it all right back around to you. This lesson doesn't end here. It's a challenge, an invitation. As you go about your day, look for the missing melodies in your own life. What unspoken story is out there waiting for you to notice? What silent clue will you be the one to see?